Hi everyone, this is Stephanie Thomas
And I'm Mary Thomas.
of Thomas and Thomas BC. We're the Sales Tax Sisters, and today we are going to talk about what does it mean when you register. This is part of our Nexus series.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks is we've been talking about nexus, physical and economic. And one of the things that people typically will ask is, what does registration mean? If you are in one state and you register in another state, what does it mean? It means a couple of different things. It means that what you're doing is whether you are registering because you're required to or whether you're registering because it's a voluntary registration, it means that you have a presence in this new state. You have a presence in a state that you're not headquartered in, that you may have physical nexus there, you may not. You are saying to this state, you know what, my business is of the nature that I really need to be registered here. People can sue me here. Because registration usually means that you're registering not only with the taxing authority, you're registering with the Secretary of State. You're registering to be able to transact business in that jurisdiction. So when you do that, that means basically whether you have physically there or not, you're on the ground. So you're responsible for compliance with all of their laws. So if they have a corporate income tax, guess what? You're paying it. If you're subject to it, you're paying it. They got a franchise tax, you're paying it. If you also are registering to collect sales and use tax, so that means that you're responsible now for knowing what's taxable there and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
You're responsible for knowing what the tax rates are.
Exactly.
Tax rates are not the same everywhere. It doesn't work the same way in every state. So you're responsible for knowing what their rules are. You're responsible for hitting all of your filings, be they corporate income tax, be they franchise tax. You're responsible, and sales and use tax, you're responsible for hitting those deadlines on time. You're responsible for knowing how to compile a sales and use tax return in that jurisdiction.
In some jurisdictions, even if you have zero sales for a period of time, they still want
the return. Exactly. And so that's the thing that, you always tell people, you always want to be aware of. When you say, you know what, I'm going to register here, then you need to understand what that means. When you register to do business in a jurisdiction, states have you pay for that. So there are little costs that are in there. But more than that, you have situations where if you're in one state and you are filing the returns and you're doing the paperwork for that one state, that's easier than when you start doing it for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different states that have different rules. So if you have to do it, you have to do it. Plan for it, put up the apparatus, because it's not impossible.
Exactly, but also be aware that if you must register because you have nexus, you must register to collect sales and use tax in whatever jurisdiction you're registering in. Note that you have to register for other things too.
Yes, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's really one of the things that I tell people to do is go to the state taxing authority's website, pull down the different tax types that they levy, read through all of them, and figure out which ones apply to you, or have a representative of yours go through and actually do it for you. Get you registered, and then you start the whole compliance thing. And it's important that you actually do the compliance. Every state does not have corporate income tax.
No.
Every state does not have a franchise tax. It really does vary by jurisdiction. In some places, certain things are taxable. In some places tax food. Other places don't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be up to you to know how the tax laws of whatever jurisdiction you're in, how they apply to you. Some states have home rule states. And that means that if you register in Texas, you register with the controller's office, and
you can collect the tax for, you can collect Houston City tax, Dallas City tax, all local jurisdictions. Everything rolls through the Texas Controller of Public Accounts. Right. Whereas you have Louisiana, and that's a home rule state. So you have the state of Louisiana, that's one return. You have Calcasieu Parish, that's one return. It varies. But luckily for most people, there aren't very many home rule states.
Say there four. But you have to be very careful about that. Is that go up and see, am I dealing with a home rule state? Because there are a couple.
There are.
And when you're dealing with a home rule state, what we just told you about the different taxability rules and the different deadlines, that's times two. Mm-hmm. Because you're dealing not only with the state taxing authority, you're also dealing with state of Louisiana because they're right next door. You're not only dealing with the state of Louisiana, you're dealing with
the different parishes.
Calcasieu, Cato, so you have to just
keep all of that in mind.
Keep all of that in mind. Plan it out. Uh-huh. And if you are out of any kind of, and one of the things I tell people is that it comes into play because if you have a small business, there are safeguards in place. And it's escaping my mind, the specific term for it. But there's a safeguard. You have to get to a certain level of business before
you're required to register.
If you don't have physical presence. So if somebody comes into your office and says, you know what, I love working for you, but my spouse got transferred to California. Can I still work for you in California? You might want to think about that. Because if you have somebody working for you in California, guess what?
You have a presence in California. You have an employee there, which means you have nexus.
You're gonna have to register.
There you go.
And that's just a very simple. Now, what we're saying is the very simplistic. The rules as we know them right now, rules change.
Yes.
And they vary from state to state. So you're really gonna want to pay attention to it. But one of the things to be very aware of is letting people work remotely, hiring people, having agents and different things that are in other states. It could place you there. You could get there, without any planning if you're not careful as to what it is you're doing. Having trucks, having a fleet of trucks, having a truck drive from Texas over into Louisiana. Bam! If you got trucks on the road,
that's a presence. That's a physical presence. That's nexus. So it's one of those things where just be aware of your operations, what you're doing, where your employees are, the different economic nexus levels in miscellaneous states, and that will help you determine whether or not you need to register.
And so with that, we have
completed the nexus series?
No, we haven't. No, we got one more.
Oh,
but we've completed this little section on what does it mean to register. And again, this is very simplistic, and this is something as a building block for you to go out and really talk to a professional as to what it is you're doing, because getting this wrong could really cripple you. So you want to make sure that you get this right.
And we are giving you general advice, but just like Mary said, it's up to you as a responsible business owner to find out what your requirements are.
Mm-hmm. This is a very tailored analysis. It really does hinge on what you do, and each state has very specific rules about it. So with that, I think I've cautioned you enough and given you enough to just kind of be a little bit dangerous. But you need to know to ask the right questions. Exactly. And the best source of information forever and ever and ever, amen, is the taxing authority as it relates to the different publications that they put up. And if you have questions, we're here.
We love comments and questions in the comment section.
And we also, this is what we do. So, with that, have a good one. Hope we helped you. And we'll see you next time. If you like the video, please thumb it up and subscribe.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.